Has anybody seen my player's handbook? Because we're going on a quest. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin Movies. As always, I am your host, the real Gino Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about Disney and Pixar's newest movie, Onward. I got a chance to see an advanced screening of this. It was for everyone. I had to buy the ticket. It wasn't one of those screenings that I, usually go to when I go to them. But the only one that was near me was in St. Charles, St. Louis. So I had to go to St. Louis to see this. I just got back, so if I look a little tired, you'll have to forgive me. I've been on the road a while. Before I talk about the movie, I want to talk about the short, or at least tease the short that played before it. It wasn't a Pixar short, kind of like I believe it was they did with Coco. They showed another Disney property cartoon. This time, it wasn't even an original Disney cartoon. It was something that they acquired. It was a short that was in the universe of something they acquired from Fox. I'll just leave it at that. You'll probably figure it out. But that's the short that they showed. Don't worry, it's actually pretty funny. And it doesn't go as long as the one from Frozen that played in front of, again, I think it was Coco. And I enjoyed this short. It was just good. It was good, clean fun. But then let's talk about Onward. Onward is set in a universe that is kind of what, or at least a PG version of what Netflix's Bright wanted to be. It's where you have fantasy races in like the modern world. You have elves and manticores and many other fantasy type characters that you would see in like D&D or Lord of the Rings or anything like that. But it's the modern world, and it does talk about the past, how the game or the world used to be just like a D&D game. It's the fantasy world, right? Where there's wizards and warriors and monsters. But magic was too hard. They show people trying to train for magic, and they're really bad at it. And someone creates the light bulb. So this fantasy world's version of Edison, Tesla, whoever you want to give credit to for creating the first light bulb, they discovered the light bulb, and magic is too hard, and it kind of gets forgotten, even though the study of it is still out there, according to this movie. Flash forward to their present time, and it's the birthday of a young elf named Ian, played by Tom Holland, and he's always wanted to meet his father. His older brother, Barley, played by Chris Pratt, only has a few memories of their dad, and I don't know if they really explain it. They just say that the father had passed away, whether when Ian was really young or before he was born. He just got sick and he passed away. So they've been raised by their mother Laurel, played by Julie Louis-Dreyfus, and the son Ian just wants to meet his father. Well, for his 16th birthday, his dad left him a present, and the mom didn't even know what it was. It turns out that when he was sick, he studied in magic and had a wizard staff, and it had a spell that he wanted to see what his kids grew up to be, or how his kids had grown up. He wanted to see the men they were becoming, and so this wizard staff had a spell in it to bring him back for 24 hours. Well, the thing is, magic has not been in this world for a long time, but he did leave the spell. He left the element that they needed. It's something called the Phoenix Crystal to put on top of the staff, and to use the spell, and they could see their dad for 24 hours. So the older son, who is basically this whatever, I can't remember what the game was called, but it was this world's D&D. He is a big D&D geek, and that's like his whole life, and he's been studying it forever. And In this world, though, D&D is based on historical accuracy. So their history is this game. It's kind of like Risk, like Risk is to us or something like that. It's this game is their D&D game is their history, and the older brother is a master at it. So he tries to do the spell over and over and over again for hours, trying to get it to work. Can't get it to work. And they finally give up. But Ian is in his room by himself. And he's just reading the thing. And you can tell he's really upset. And he starts to say the words. And the staff starts to glow. And he starts to cast the spell. The only problem is the crystal breaks about halfway through, only, as you've seen in the trailer, revealing half of their father as legs. So the brother says, I know where we can at least try to get another crystal, or try to find and get another crystal, or a chance to find another crystal. We're going to go see the Manticore, which is the mystical creature that used to put these heroes on their quests. So the brothers are going on a quest. That's the whole point of the story. Okay, I'm gonna talk about a few things. I'm gonna not try to spoil anything, but I do have to talk about what I liked and didn't like, and that might be minor in spoilerage. But don't worry, I'm not gonna give away any of the big stuff. First things first, I really like the cast. Everyone in it. I really liked Tom Holland as Ian. He has to go from kind of timid 16-year-old who doesn't have any friends, and he's really nervous around people, and he needs to, he makes lists about things how he needs to better himself. He has to go from that to brave and being able to stand up for himself and step forward and be the man, right? Chris Pratt's character, Barley, the older brother, you get a lot of typical Chris Pratt in this. I almost called him Chris Farley because his name is Barley, so I'm Chris. I almost said Chris Barley. That being said, I could see Chris Farley playing a part like this if he were still around. But I love the fact that he's basically someone like me that was all into D&D and stuff like that, and probably, was into it a little too much at times. Not saying there's anything wrong with D&D, it's just because I love it. It got to a point where it was consuming a little too much of my life, and I had to stop because I have other hopes and dreams and goals that I want to accomplish, and I wasn't getting any of that stuff done. But that's another story. I love D&D though. I do love playing it, and I love the fact that this character is basically a representation kind of me, probably around that age. Because his character is, I think, like 3 or 4 years older. So he's probably about 19, 20 in this movie. I like Julie Louis-Dreyfus as the mom. John Ratzenberger shows up for a bit. Tracy Ullman has a really funny part as a pawn shop owner. You've seen it in the trailer. There's a police officer that is also a minotaur. I'm not going to say other parts of what his story is, but it does play in very well with our main characters. I'll just say that. I don't want to spoil that because it's not in the trailers. And Octavia Spencer is the Manticore. You could tell it's Octavia Spencer, but then there's also times that it almost sounds like Wanda Sykes. I can see Wanda Sykes playing this role too, but Octavia Spencer does a great job too. And then there's a couple other smaller parts here and there. I know that their story's making a big deal about one of the characters being like the first openly gay character. I did like how they did that. It's one of the cops. She just casually mentions she's talking with another character. It'd kind of be a spoiler if I told you who it was. She's talking to a character and she says, yeah, kids will kids will drive you nuts. My girlfriend's kids do this. And it was real casual, and I liked that. And I've mentioned before in any movies, I don't care what it is, whether I believe in it or not. I don't like being preached to in movies, and I just like the way that they just casually put this in there in a line, and it just established that you have a gay character, and that was it. And that's all you really needed to do. It didn't need to be forced into the movie, and I liked that it was just there. It was part of the world, and it worked for me. But here's the thing. I felt this movie didn't have enough characters. In a movie that's about a quest, I was hoping for, I don't know. I mean, you had some, this biker gang. I'll just leave it at that. You had this biker gang, but they really weren't established much as characters. They were more like a caricature or stereotype of a character. Because it was just like a group of bikers, so they didn't really develop those characters much other than they're bikers. I would have liked a couple more characters. You got some minor characters here and there, but not that had any real development. So it would have been nice to have some more characters, I think, to establish some more races in this universe, because other than a few of the races, they don't really say that the main characters are elves. I mean, yeah, you can tell because they have pointy ears, but they're also blue. So they could have been, goblins or something like that. They didn't really establish it. And I would have liked to have seen some more races. You see a few different races, but I would have liked to have seen some more. And to make it more like D&D, I thought it would have been neat to have some humans in it too. It's not a must. But it just would have been, it would have gave it more of that D&D feel. Maybe if they do more of these movies, I don't know if they will, but I guess you could, since you, kind of established that magic is coming back into this world. And then, though this movie, quote unquote, has a villain, I wanted a real villain, like a Disney villain, if you know what I mean. Or even a Pixar villain, a Syndrome type of villain, right? Now, granted, it might have pushed against the main story, which is these two boys trying to get to know their father in the 24 hours that they have before he disappears forever, and they can't even talk to him because he's only half there. Yeah, it may have pushed into that some. But it would have been nice to have a real villain. Maybe if they do another one, they'll have a real villain. I don't know, because now that magic's back in the world, now maybe, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Someone would want that magic for bad things. And that's been a real problem with Disney movies. They haven't had a lot of real villains. It's like nobody can be a bad guy anymore. And I'm not saying it's all Disney movies, but it's happened a lot. I mean, yeah, this movie's about the quest. I get it. But it would have been nice to have a villain, too. All in all, though, I thought the story was pretty solid. I liked the world. I've always liked the whole thing where a world where, like a Shadowrun, or even, like I said, what Bright tried to do, where you have these fantasy characters in, modern times. I've always loved that aesthetic. I used to write short stories involving that aesthetic, where characters from a fantasy realm transported to our world kind of thing. So I like the world. The movie's good. It's probably, I don't know what else is coming out cartoon-wise this year off the top of my head. I can't say this one bulldozes its way to the top of my list, though, when it comes to animation. Then again, I don't know what's coming out. So I still really did like the movie, though. I do recommend it. It's just, while it does have heart, in a world about fantasy, they had fantasy characters, but I would have liked some more of it, I think. They do, and it's in the credits where they give credit to Wizards of the Coast. They do have one or two D&D official D&D monsters in this movie, and they do give credit for it. So I like that, and I did like that. Barley, the Chris Pratt character, has all this knowledge, like his knowledge of D&D comes into play on this whole quest. He knows where to go to get the information. He knows, he's got like the cards with, here's the Phoenix Crystal and here's where we need to go. And, he's got all the spells in the player's handbook. And that's how Tom Holland's character Ian learns or starts to learn spells. So I like that. I liked a lot of this. I was left wanting more. I think that's what it was. It's not, again, it doesn't ruin the movie. It just makes it just a little bit disappointing for me, even though I still thought it was a really good movie and I still do highly recommend it. But yeah, as a D&D guy, as a fantasy guy, I think I was just wanting a lot more of that. Again, it may have bumped the story a bit, but I think, the movie wasn't that long, and there's not even an after credit scene or anything. It's not even 2 hours. It could have been 2 hours. You could have added a little bit more, I think, from the fantasy side. But still, really solid movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I can say I'm glad I drove to St. Louis to see it, but I did think it was a pretty solid movie. I enjoyed the world, and I think especially those that enjoy fantasy, I think you'll enjoy the world of Onward too. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Gino YouTube channel, like this video, and after you see it, if you have anything to say about Onward, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Real Gino, Gino Reynolds, and we're going on a quest.